Let's today take a look at making our podcast editing much easier with some AI tools. Much simpler, much easier, much less technical, and far, far faster. This includes audio cleanup, so your noise reduction, leveling, all of those things to make you sound great. It includes editing itself, so cutting out your ums and ahs, cutting out those silences, doing all of that automatically. Now that saves hours. And then we've got background music, we've got transcript-based editing, we've got writing your titles and your descriptions, all in one tool. So let's not waste any more time. We'll jump into it and see how exactly it all works. First step to get into our editing with AI is to add an episode. So creating a new episode, and then I upload my recording. So the recording I made earlier. Now, there's a couple of things to know with this recording. One is I did have an issue with my Rodecaster. So the Rodecaster had a wee bit of a interference issue that I did track down. I've managed to fix, but you'll hear it in this. So I'll open that up for you just now to let you hear it, because you'll see that straight away. Alitu is cleaning up our audio here. So that's it now, doing all of the audio processing to make it all sound great, polish it up. I'll show you exactly what is included here because we have a few options. It does normal background noise by default. So if you have nothing turned on here, it does do a standard background noise process that gets rid of regular sounds like, the hum of a fan or a computer or kind of low drone of traffic outside. It can get rid of those kinds of background noises as standard. But the background noise plus here actually also gets rid of intermittent noises. That's things like, a dog barking outside or an ambulance going by, those kind of things. To be honest, it's pretty crazy how good it is actually at getting rid of those intermittent noises. I'll show you an example clip here, which is taken from our podcast Podcraft when an ambulance went by when one of our guests was talking. So just listen to this.
So there's a secondary field you can now include within your feed. That feed might have video, that feed might have audio in another language.
Now, did you hear how halfway through the ambulance just disappeared? Well, actually, it was still there. That was just the noise cleanup working. So that's one example of the kinds of background noise it can remove. For this clip, I'll show you, if I play the start of the clip, you'll hear a good buzz behind my voice. Question straight away. So you can hear that in the background, that hum, that buzz. That's the more regular background noise that you get. Now that has been disappeared. So the background noise plus gets rid of ambulances, dog barks. The normal background noise removes that hum, that buzz. And then you have two other options too. You've got voice enhancement. That's studio sound. So that's really like an EQ. So it adds some bass, messes around with the middles, the upper end, really makes you sound great. And then the final one, obviously, is this remove breath sound. So that gets rid of the breath sounds in your recording as well, if you choose to get rid of those. Jumping back into the episode, we can listen to that straight away. We can hear whether that's gone. Question straight away. There's no hum, no hiss in the background there. So that normal background noise has been removed too. So that's the first step in our AI podcast editing, taking away all of the audio engineering. So it does the background noise, it does the leveling. It's leveled out my volume and Thomas that I'm talking to in the interview as well. So that's all done. EQ would be applied if I chose to as well. Breath sounds removed. So audio engineering all complete, just done by AI right here in Alitu, provided by the tool. Quick little ask, if you're finding this content helpful, please do hit that subscribe and alert button below to make sure you get all of our podcast and audience growth content in future. Now I'll jump into filters in a second. This is where some real AI editing comes in, getting rid of silences, getting rid of filler words. I'll show you that. But worth just noticing on the episode builder here, another thing that happens, not necessarily via AI, but automation, is it adds intro and outro music. So these are set by default. In the settings in Alitu, you've got default intro and outro. You can set your themes. You get these made ahead of time or make them yourselves. And then on every episode, they appear right in here. And you can even have fades as well. So I can have them overlap by, let's say, 5 seconds. I'll fade that out. So the music will overlap with the interview by 5 seconds. It'll fade out as it goes. I can adjust the volume, click save, and that'll remember it for next time. So every time you create a new episode, this intro and outro theme will appear. So now that I've applied that transition, I can hear what it sounds like. Thomas, personal branding on LinkedIn. And you can set that, like I said, to be automatic every single time. So there's another part of automation, not necessarily AI, but still automated by the tools to help save us some time on editing. So that's a great little addition. Let's get into the meat of the edit now in the waveform and the text-based editor. The text-based editor is where I always start. I always get the transcription done right away by AI. It lets me skim through. I can see the broad strokes. I can see the structure of the interview. I can start to map out if there were any parts that I want to take out. And I'll show you a few techniques as well for actually using the transcript for some checking, some quality checking as well, looking for signals. But while that's going, let's jump into the filters. So here's some pure AI editing that really helps us and saves us some time. So we've got two things here, unneeded silences, and we've got filler words. So there's often quite long pauses, and this can help us really tidy those up. So let's hit go on that, apply filters, and click understood. And I can see here where it's removed those silences. You see all these red lines. Those are edits that have now been automatically applied. You can see ones that are single. We can straight away click the little pencil button at the top and preview to hear what they sound like.
And then see how it goes.
Yeah. So I mean, so there was an edit in there, but that sounded pretty seamless to me. If we zoom in, we can see that it took out this little bit of silence, took out maybe half a second's worth of silence just to really speed things up. If you decide that it's one that you don't want to keep, you can hit restore and that actually gets rid of it altogether. It's up to you. Often I find with a tool like this, I want to go in, I want to check a few to make sure the quality's there. I'll go in, I'll hit the edit button, I'll preview.
Sake of posting. So my advice would be don't do that. Have a strategy straight.
And again, that sounds pretty seamless. I'm going to keep that one. You might want to go through, check a few, and then you can just kind of move on. Once you start to trust a tool, you can often just let it go and actually trust that it's doing the right kind of job. And I've found that I really trust this for my type of editing, my type of recordings. They're usually pretty seamless. Now let me try the other one. So I'll do filler words as well. Let's do some ums and ahs. So I'm going to turn off the silences and put the ums and ahs on. So apply filters. So I'm going to zoom in and test a few of these. Let's zoom in on a wee cluster of them up here. I'll edit this one here. Let's see what that one sounds like. If I zoom in on it, I'll see what it's got rid of. Preview. It's doing it manually too. But then actually these days, I actually just record them afterward. So sounded pretty seamless. If I get rid of it, let's hear what that actually was. Too. But then actually these days, I actually just record. So that's great. That was just this part here. It's just a pure and if I bring that back, preview, it's doing it manually too. But then actually these days, I actually just record them after. And that sounds great. So I'm going to keep that. And that's the kind of thing it gets rid of. So all of these are little filler words like that. And again, with the ums and ahs, sometimes you want to go in and have a wee check. Just go through a few of them, make sure it's picking up your ones pretty accurately. Once you trust that it's getting yours pretty right, you can often just hit go on the filter and then actually just apply them all and just move on and trust that it is working nicely. Save and exit that, and that is that done. That's the cleanup done on both silences and ums and ahs. You can actually add background music really simply. So you can bring in background music, click that plus, choose the music from your library, and then it automates almost the fades, it automates the volume, so you can mess around with that and have it exactly where you want it to be, kicking in on the voice. Just think that you're trying to get pity, but on the other hand, actually, people human. So you can have things like that to emphasize maybe an emotional part, a happy part, whatever kind of music you want to put behind it to really emphasize one section of your podcast. So that's another little hack, AI powered potentially. It'll edit it in at the end once you've put it in the right place, just to help you out and save more time. The final thing to mention is where AI really assists as opposed to completely takes over, but that's in the transcript. So as I said, I set this transcript going at the start. It's now appeared, and I've now got a full transcript of the whole episode. So now if I click on any point, the playhead will jump straight to that. So I can click on in here. I can skim through. Often the way I do it is I skim through. I try and find the sections, the segments. I'll try and spot any places I remember being a bit slower, a bit fluffy, see if there's any sections, any paragraphs I can remove. I can just highlight a whole thing and cut it out, and that would actually remove that whole segment. I can always bring it back if I need to. And the other way I use this is for vocal signals. So if I actually make a mistake in the recording, so I'm recording away, I make a mistake on something, or if, say my guest Thomas here needed to take a break, needed to go to the bathroom or something, I'll say the words edit point 1, 2, 3, edit point 1, 2, 3, and then I'll search for that. So I'll type in edit point, and it'll actually show that up. So the transcript search really quickly helps me navigate through the episode, find those points where I need to make those edits. And I use vocal signals like that to really mark out things that I need to change, because really I don't want to be listening through the whole episode. What I want to do is to be able to skim through and just know what I'm searching for, to be able to take those parts out really quickly and then move on to the next part. Now, last step is publishing. So let's jump onto the publish page. We have a few tools in here that can help us out. One of the things that takes the longest, the most troublesome for us podcasters is writing. We like to talk, but not so much to write. And there's an AI generation tool in here. So let's write with AI. What it'll do is it'll create a transcript for your final episode, which you can also use in the RSS feed. Great for accessibility, great for an alternative way for people to consume your episodes. But with that transcript, it'll actually also create you an episode title and an episode description, so you don't have to write a thing. In the meantime, I can show you a final tool, which is to create video. So it will create a video episode of this. What it does is it takes your audio and it applies via AI and automation a waveform, which actually plays over the top of your artwork and gives you something to actually upload to YouTube, something with visuals that accompanies your audio. So you have a video to publish, to take clips from, to play anywhere else as well. And here we go. Title, Mastering Personal Branding on LinkedIn, Insights for Podcasters, quite like that. And the description, also I've got a few different suggestions here. So if I hit rewrite, it shows you number 2. Hit rewrite again, it shows me number 3. So it's developed a few different ones. And I can do the same for the title as well. If I click rewrite, you can see a bunch of different ideas. Repurpose with purpose, finding your voice, navigating LinkedIn personal branding. So lots of different ones I can choose from. So that should clear that writer's block that you have around episode titles, episode descriptions, and really get us to publishing much quicker. Now I hit save and I'm ready to publish. I can publish directly on Alitu here, or I can link it out to whatever hosting I have my podcast linked up to. And that's it. That's the edit done, all ready to make this episode live to the world. Last thing, one thing I've been playing a lot with is how to use AI to help me create a highlights reel or an intro. You know, those cold opens that you often see at the start of really big shows where they might have a few quotes or a couple of highlights and a bit of a host read where you're saying something and then there's a clip from later in the show. And it all comes together into a really nice, maybe 30-second or 60-second clip, which actually gives a really nice tease for the show, particularly if you're doing a video podcast for YouTube, but it actually works really nicely for an audio podcast too. Now, I've got an AI prompt that I've been playing around with for that. It's massive, quite a lot of lines long. So I've got it as a download. So if you go over to thepodcasthost.com/trailer prompt, that's thepodcasthost.com/trailer prompt, should see it right here. You'll be able to sign up and get that prompt for yourself. So go over there, grab that, and hopefully that helps you make the best trailer you possibly can. I'll keep that updated as I'm playing around with this because it's getting better and better every day as I experiment with different ways to do it. If you do need more help, of course, we always have our Podcraft Academy. That's where I and the rest of my team are in helping our community of podcasters. If you go over to thepodcasthost.com/academy, you'll find it there. We've got feedback tools, we've got courses, we've got templates and worksheets, we've got checklists that all help you cut the time it takes to get that show of yours out there. Plus our community, of course, of other podcasters you can learn alongside. So if you fancy it, I'd love to see you in there. We'd love to help you make your podcast more of a success. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video. Cheerio.